I met my son Josh at an adoption party in the summer of 1990. He was 6 years old and had shaggy blonde hair and skinny wrists that stuck out of his too small sweatshirt. I watched him scramble up the side of a play structure. Somehow he managed to pull himself up so he was on top of the beam that ran across the swing set. He teetered a moment, straightened, and then raised his arms, posing like an Olympic gymnast. I remember thinking, despite all he's been through, there is life in this child. Josh was born with significant social disadvantages: uneducated parents who struggled with mental illness, substance abuse, domestic violence. The accidents of birth and genetics limited his opportunities, his choices, from the very beginning. By the time I met him, abuse, neglect, and more than a dozen trips in and out of foster care had left deep and permanent emotional scars. On that sunny day so many years ago, none of that mattered to me. I wanted to adopt him. He leaped off the top of the play structure and raced over to where I was standing with the social worker. "You saw that?" he exclaimed in his high, clear voice. His face was split by a big, toothy grin, and he beamed, truly beamed. His eyes were so big and so bright, it was like a light shined out of them. I looked at that little face and fell in love. I came to that moment full of hope and inspiration. I understood that Josh couldn't be fixed, that no amount of love could ever truly heal his emotional wounds. But I hoped that by raising him in a caring and safe environment, I would be literally raising him out of poverty and despair. The accidents of birth and genetics were kind to me. I had the resources to open my home and my heart. And in sharing my advantages, my privileges, I hoped to expand the opportunities available to Josh. It didn't turn out to be quite that easy. What got in the way was his deeply held belief, down to his core, that he was worthless and unlovable. If I challenged that belief, he worked extra hard to prove that I was wrong. I remember once planting a tree with him in my backyard. As we tucked the tree into the soil, I told him that now that it was planted in the healthy ground, the roots would be strong and the tree would grow tall. I know how it sounds, but I really did talk that way. A little while later, I looked out the window and saw the tree laying on the ground. At first I thought the wind had blown it over. I went outside to get a closer look. Someone had yanked the tree out of the ground and tossed it aside. I heard a noise and I turned to see Josh standing defiantly in the middle of the street in front of our house. It took me a few seconds to understand what was going on. He smirked and stuck out his tongue. That broke the spell. "Get out of the street!" He laughed and took off running down the middle of the street. I was equal parts crushed, furious, and worried that he would get hurt. By the time I caught up with him, I was so upset. It was the closest I ever came to hitting him. It would have been so easy to give up, easy to send him away. But those of you who know me know that I've never been one for choosing the easy way to do something. For many years, I poured all of my attention and time and creativity into raising this boy. He had every enrichment, every intervention, every therapy available. And he did grow. He learned. He loved. He blossomed in the healthy soil. For a while. Josh's 34th birthday was Sunday. I didn't see him or even speak to him. In fact, I haven't had any communication with him in more than a year. He spent this birthday in prison. Earlier this year, he was arrested for dealing heroin in front of an elementary school. In his mugshot, he's wearing a red tank top. His arms are covered in tattoos, his head shaved. He has a look on his face that I recognize. It's the same one he wore for most of his childhood. He doesn't look stoned or frightened or angry, just lost and sad. Deep down, this is the same little boy who cried in my arms when Charlotte the spider died. It was his first offense, so the judge set a low bail. But he was arrested again less than a week later. He was caught on camera selling heroin in front of that same elementary school and wearing that same red tank top. When I look back at everything I did for and with Josh, I find myself wondering, why did I bother? Was it all just a waste of time and energy and money? Did I make any difference? Did any of it matter? You didn't realize how depressing an inspirational speech could be. When I adopted Josh, I didn't qualify my love with a requirement that his future be what I dreamed for him. By sharing things with him, explaining things, taking him places, I created opportunities. I opened doors for him, as many doors as I could. Ultimately, it was Josh's choice to walk through them or not. I think he had better options than dealing drugs in front of a school in an ugly tank top. But one of the things you have to accept as a parent is that your adult children are free to make their own bad decisions. The time and energy I gave him is not negated by the choices he made. The work we do for others is not contingent on the results. If we can if the people we intend to help choose not to accept that help, it doesn't make the gesture meaningless. In fact, I think one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is the power that comes with choosing to say no. No is very powerful, right, Trevor? We can't control what other people think and feel and do. Thank goodness. But if we can give them a choice, even a choice to refuse, we are making a difference. It matters. If we all used our particular gifts, advantages, privileges, whatever you want to call it, to expand the opportunities available to someone else, imagine the impact we could have. Imagine a world where everyone has multiple choices.